Well, hello. Welcome back to Love What Luck. Hope you're all having a good week. I'm back in London. I've survived my first week back to reality. I've realised now we're pretty much through January, but I feel like only now my new year's started. So yeah, I've done my first week back in London, and I knew I was losing it when I went to get my laser. And guys, I haven't had a moan about it for a while, but no one tells you when you're getting laser how much hard work it is. I started this laser when I was in my last relationship. This laser session has probably lasted longer than that. It is such a ball ache. They laser you when you've got a hint of tan, whether it's natural or fake. I don't even know when I started. It's got to be 2 years, I swear. It's such a ball ache. Anyway, I went the other week reluctantly now because every time a session comes up, I'm like, oh my God, please not the laser. I literally despise it. Anyway, I went to go. It was only when I got in the room and she said, right, I'll leave you getting dressed, I realised I didn't have a bra on. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to be fully naked. And I realised she goes like inside your vagina pretty much. It's pretty much like a smear there. But having a bra on was just like that little bit of dignity, you know. Or most of the time I'd go in a vest. Like I'd wear a vest underneath my jumper, you know. So there's like a little bit of dignity. No, they took the last little shred that I had. She came back in. I was like, I'm really sorry. I've realised I've forgotten a bra. I'm nude now. Like... And I've had this woman so many times, and she's actually my favourite. She's the older woman, and she is the first woman that gave me the option of... how can I word this so that it's not too rude? She's the one that gave me the option of the behind. So basically, my first laser, I did say the story on you, but my first ever laser appointment, I didn't know that the behind was included. I was just told to turn round and spread. And I'm actually not exaggerating when I say that that is exactly what she said to me. And I was so mortified and at a loss for words and shy. I just did exactly as she told me. And that went on for 2 or 3 sessions until I got this woman and she was like, do you want me to do behind? And I was like, it's optional? I was like, no. And so I'm really grateful to her because she taught me that you don't have to go through that if you don't want to. Anyway, I was like, I realised I'm naked, I'm sorry. So I had to lay there completely nude with nothing on but my socks, like absolute ick central, with a towel to cover my top bits. But yeah, it was in that moment I realised it was the same day that I'd recorded the last episode, and I was up until like 4 a.m, I think. I realised I wasn't okay. But one of my New Year's kind of goals, and it's been a goal for a while to be fair, was to really prioritise sleep. Because, guys, I've done a deep dive on this a little bit. I wouldn't say deep dive, but sleep is so important. And I don't know if you know this, but one of my biggest fears in life is getting Alzheimer's or dementia. And lack of sleep can trigger that. So when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, I need to get more sleep. And also, I've realised that when you don't get much sleep, you're just not, you're not at your full potential. So from, I would say, Tuesday or Wednesday onwards this week, so it's been 4 days, I have made it crucial to get to bed at 10. And I've done it all week. And it's not something that comes easy to me. Like, it is actually a challenge for me. Like on Wednesday, I was like running around to get stuff done because obviously I work in the day, I do the stuff in the night, I procrastinate. I don't know, I just going to bed early just is not something that's ever come naturally to me. But when I went to Scotland, everyone was going to bed early and I didn't have anything to do, obviously, because I was on my holidays. So I was like, right, okay, I'll just come to bed with you. And I was shocked. I actually did fall asleep easily and I actually did sleep for 8 to 9 hours. So anyway, this is super boring, sorry. But I've prioritised that this week and I feel so much better for it. So yeah, that's my hack of the week. Get 8 hours sleep if you can, because it's not a myth. It actually does make you feel so much better. Right, anyway, sorry, boring intro. Let's go straight into a story. And guys, I've got to apologise, right? So I can see that this email was sent to me on Christmas Eve. And I basically, when I get a story sent via email, I like to keep it to read it live on the episode because I always want it to be genuine and like real time and that. So I save it. But I realise sometimes that by the time I open it, a few weeks has passed and then I do feel guilty. So yeah, if you've sent me a message, then please bear with me. Another one of my goals this year is to get better at my replying times, and yeah, that's it basically. Okay, anyway, here we go. At 15, I met a guy and we just automatically clicked. We were on and off for a few years, and due to friends interfering, we ended up going our separate ways at 19. Oh, hate that. Do you know, I've got a friend that kind of happened with, and she was in a relationship and she just said that there was like so much back and forth from her friends that they didn't think he was right for her, and you know, his friends getting involved and stuff, that actually did affect him breaking up. It's not good. I think you can only advise your friends so much. Like, I'm going off on a tangent already, sorry, but my friend's ex was honestly the worst person. Like, to say I despised him, I despise him now, but even at the time, like, I hated him. He was just not a good person and not right for her. And don't get me wrong, I definitely let her know, like, you know, I don't think he's good for you, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, no one's going to leave someone really until they are ready. And I just think in the meantime, all you can do is be a supportive friend. Like, best believe I was on double dates with that man. And I call him a man, he's definitely a boy. The very first time that my friend's ex met my ex, right? And this just shows you what type of person he is. One of the first things he said to my ex was, yeah, you might be super tall, but you're bald, you know. Because he was just like such an insecure little boy, and he couldn't handle that, like, this man like that I brought back was taller than him. So he had to like be like, yeah, well, you were bald though. Like, that's just what he was like, or he was just not nice. But I would still go on a double date and stuff, because you've just got to support your friends. And I just think it's their life. I can't understand people that don't speak to somebody if they go out with somebody. I don't know, maybe I've not been in that situation, but like, I would hate that the other way around. Like, if I wanted to go with somebody and my friend was like, well, I'm not going to talk to you if you're with them. Like, I don't know. I just don't think there's any need for it. Okay. So she's 15. She met somebody. They clicked. They were together for 4 years, but their friends interfered and they broke up. We both went on to have our own children, and I got married. But there was never a day I didn't think about him. Oh my God. Fast forward to a couple of years ago. We're now 38 and 39. Both of our relationships had ended. My marriage had been an unhappy one, and his relationship was the same. We got back in touch. Oh my God, stop. This is the cutest thing. This is giving Nicolas Cage. No. No. No, not Nicolas Cage. Not Nicolas Cage. Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks. No, this is giving Nicholas Sparks romance novel. He wrote The Notebook and all of them. She said, we got back in touch. I wrote him a letter to his parents' house, and he replied, stop, that is the cutest thing. If a man wrote to me via Royal Mail, if a letter turned up at my door, best believe I'm yours. I'm sorry, is there anything more old school romantic than that? Imagine receiving a handwritten envelope open to a letter of somebody, you know, proclaiming they love you. That's what I want in 2025. Is it too much to ask? We met up and it was like the time had never passed. We've got each other through some of the hardest times. We have laughed together, cried together, and I now have the love of my life and my best friend back. Oh my God. He makes me laugh every day. He looks after me. He supports my decisions, and he shows me how much he loves and cares for me every day. Don't give up hope. It took me a while to get my soulmate back, and I never want to lose him again. I'd lost all hope of happiness, but here we are. He's my absolute world, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life showing him how much I love him. Oh my God, I love that. You can tell this woman just loves this man. I want to show him how much I love him. You go, girl. I will love him until my last breath, and no other person has or will ever compare. His family have just become mine in a short space of time and treat me like I've always been here. It's how I dreamed my life could be. Everything was slotted together just perfectly. Stop, is this going to make me cry? Please, not today. Take a chance and it could be the best decision you make. Oh my God. Guys, I always ask for nice love stories and we got one. Sometimes the time just isn't right, but I just think if the connection is there, then it'll always be there, and that connection will never die. And maybe you're just meant to come back together at another time. Do you know actually what couple I feel like this with? Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom. To me, it's so clear that they are like soulmates. And the reason I bring this up is because have you seen the new Kardashians trailer? Lamar and Khloe meet. He's in the newest episode of the Kardashians. And I swear, right, every season, I think I'm done with this family. I was done with Kim, really. I mean, I didn't unfollow her. But it was a tough time when she accepted the Tesla, like, robot from Elon Musk. You know, Elon Musk is now an op. We hate him. And she's like buddies with him. I was like, she's probably a Trump supporter, like low-key. Then she did that weird Christmas video where she's like on the floor with her thong hanging out. And I was like, I'm done with this family. But every time they bring that new season trailer out, I'm locked straight back in. It's like crack. I've never missed a season, any of the spin-offs. But anyway, he's back. And Chris is literally bawling in tears, saying, I'm so heartbroken for her. He is the love of her life. And I'm like, I'm Kris Jenner. I was just as upset. Khloe's fine. But it's just so shit, I think, as an outsider. Who knows nothing, by the way. But I just think sometimes you can look at two people and just think they're so right for each other. And then one of them, usually the man, makes like a fuck up that can't be repaired. And it's so frustrating. Another couple, I will never, ever get over them splitting. Ashley and Cheryl Cole. And I know I've spoken about them before on this podcast, but for me, they were just like perfect for each other. And then he had to go and bang a hairdresser, like drunk and sick in the room and God knows what. You know, and for me, I'm just like, they were the dream couple. So yeah. This is your sign, guys. Text your ex. No, kidding. Right, I actually read an important thing the other day on TikTok. And every time I go to say something, I'm like, everything I find is on TikTok. And I don't F with Insta in that way anymore. Insta Reels, just like, they just don't do anything for me. And the Instagram algorithm is just so effed up to me. Like, TikTok knows exactly what I want to see. It gives me everything that I want and need. For example, Trixie and Katya clips on TikTok are in abundance. They make me so happy. They're so funny. I can be on Instagram for like 30 minutes and not see a singular clip of them. And I follow them. Like, it's just a joke. Anyway, I read an important thing on there about emotional persistence that I wanted to talk about. And the official definition is, emotional persistence is the tendency for an emotion to remain the same over time. So I think this is a good and bad thing, obviously. It's a bad thing when something happens to you or makes you feel a certain way and you can't get over it. Like, you know, if someone hurt you and you feel angry or annoyed, whatever, and that emotional persistence, I can't even put it into a sentence, but your emotion stays the same the whole way through, then it's bad, isn't it? But then it's good if you've got it in relationships where you feel very happy about a person, very sure about them and very secure in your relationship. And then that stays the same all the time. You know, obviously you can, like, people can annoy you and stuff, but like generally, and I would say I have very good emotional persistence, just for example, with my family. Like, how I feel about them, you know, never changes. It's just always the same, no matter what happens. If I have an argument, like, with one of them or wherever, it always stays the same. But the issue comes in, and this is where I think lots of us struggle, is in romantic relationships, and this was like the examples on TikTok, if you done hear from, say you're dating somebody, right? And if you don't hear from them for a day, 2 days, or they read your message, they don't respond straight away, or, you know, they said they'd ring you and then they didn't. If you haven't got good emotional persistence, that can affect you and really trigger you, because you almost forget that the relationship is safe and secure and how you feel about them. And then, I don't know, it's probably your insecurities or your other emotions, they come in and can kind of warp the truth. Do you get me? I hope I'm explaining it right. And I thought I've definitely had that before, where you feel a certain way about somebody, and then like when you're apart from them or because of something they do, it almost sometimes like tricks me into thinking about them differently. And I also remember this girl, it's actually from school. Like I can't even remember, you know, what I ate last week, but I can remember what this girl told me in year 10, that she broke up with her boyfriend before because she said, when I was with him, it was all great, but when I wasn't with him, I wasn't that bothered about him. And I've always remembered that because I think that's such an interesting reason to break up with somebody, because she must almost be like forgetting what she feels like with him. Or maybe, I suppose, when you're apart from somebody, I guess you realise, like, if you miss someone you want to speak to them, then that's a sign maybe that, you know, of how you feel about them. But if you're not that bothered about speaking to them and stuff, I suppose you would break up with them. But yeah, apparently if you haven't got good emotional persistence, then yeah, something to look out for. So I thought I'd pass on that little nugget of wisdom. I also want to find out this week, guys, and I'm going to post it on my Instagram. I can't promise what day, but just come and follow me at Love What Luck, because I want to do a question of the week again. Forgot this week, classic. And I want to find out like the pettiest reason that you've broken up with somebody. And that obviously doesn't sound petty, but like realistically, if somebody came to me and was like, look, I've had a really nice time with you and I love spending time with you, but when we're apart, I'm actually not that bothered, so I'm breaking up with you, I'd be like, what the fuck? So, you know, you can make it a bit lighthearted. So yeah, that's what I want to find out from you guys this week. I didn't break up with somebody over this, but I wanted to break up with somebody, and I probably mentioned it before. And this is petty, I will share it on Insta as well. I wanted to break up with somebody before when the way he spoke to my nephew, who was like a baby at the time, he spoke to him like he was an adult. And he was just like almost uncomfortable with him, and I just could not handle it. It didn't quite give me the ick, but I was literally watching him play, and I use the word play loosely because it was as if he'd never been around a child before, and maybe he hadn't, I don't know. But I like what, and he was so kind to him because he like bought him stuff, so like he really did try, because obviously like my nephews are so important to me, and like if you're my boyfriend, like you'll know that. So he did really try, but he was just like, it was just like awkward conversations, and I could tell that my nephew wasn't really vibing. I imagine it's what people feel like when they're like, oh, if my dog doesn't like you, I can't be with you. if my mother doesn't like you, I can't be with you. It was that type of thing. I was like, there's no bond here. And unfortunately, I knew in that moment, I was like, I'm going to end this at some point. Okay, I've got another story that I found online actually, but I loved it, so I wanted to share with you. After 9 years of being in a relationship with a man I cared deeply about, he proposed and I said yes. I remember in that moment feeling overjoyed. After all, I was 31 at the time, and after 9 years of being in a relationship with someone, marriage felt like the natural progression. I truly never imagined that 6 months later, I would be giving back the ring. But when planning our wedding went from exciting to a chore neither of us enjoyed, I think we both knew our issues ran deeper than flower arrangement and cake flavours. So we agreed to call off our wedding and go our separate ways. Can I just pause there and just say, I applaud them for that. Because how many stories have I sat here and been sent where they've got married and then the man has gone and like cheated, or he's texting his ex before he walks down the aisle and all this bullshit. And I just think, as hard as it is to break up with somebody before a wedding, surely it's the best thing to do. I think so many people go through with a wedding. The worst story, and I know I've said it before, is the girl I used to work with, who was who got married and then found out on her honeymoon that her husband had cheated on her with a girl that he had invited to the wedding. Like, just don't get married, you know? So I think as hard as that is, my God, I'd rather break off an engagement when you're close to a wedding than after the marriage. Because then you're getting a divorce. Like, stress central. She said, I never knew what soulmate love felt like, or even if I believed in such a thing. But I did know that I always felt like something was missing in that relationship. I knew I was settling for mediocrity when I really wanted magical love. Fast forward 2 years later, I went out one night in Vancouver with 2 of my other single girlfriends. We had a few drinks beforehand and joked about how one of us needed to meet our husband that night. Speak it into existence, I swear. I love stories like that. Well, I guess the universe was listening, because at the end of the evening, as we were headed to get late night, I spotted Daniel walking down the street. I don't know what late night is. Maybe it's like a Canadian food place or something. Anyway, the energy between us was palpable. As I got closer, something came over me and I yelled out, "Where have you been all my life?" We bantered back and forth for a few minutes and then he took down my number. I wasn't thrilled when Daniel made me wait a whole week before he called. No, see, I'd be outraged by that. A whole week. My mind is so effed up that I'd be like, he's obviously not my soulmate. A week. But he explained later it was because he was scared. He knew this was going to be something big and he was still guarded. Okay, so when some guys actually do say they're scared, apparently it's sometimes true. Treat with caution, I say there. Turns out Daniel had also just ended a 10-year relationship prior to meeting me after his ex-wife cheated on him. Okay, fair. Daniel, we respect you. We love you for trying again. We understand why you've taken a week. It's okay. The night he called, he invited me over for wine on his patio, and we got lost in conversation for hours. He asked me to dance with him, and we danced until I fell asleep in his arms. Sorry. Guys, I definitely didn't read the end of the story. I just saw the first bit. Wow. I'm a romantic, but do you know what, though? I say I'm romantic and stuff. If a man asks me over on the first date, I tell him absolutely no, get parking. If you can't take me out for the first night, you're having a laugh. Think I'm going to come over? No, you've got to wait at least until day 3 for that. I am like a 3-date rule gal before even entering somebody's property, really. Second date if there's ramped up communication in that time. But first date, I just wonder where. I know what it is as well. I think like if somebody asked me on the first date to go over theirs, I'd be like, oh, they don't want a relationship. And even if I don't want a relationship, I'd be like, no, you're just not getting me over that quickly. No judgment to the gals that do. Most of my friends do. So there's no judgment here. But it's mad that like all the stereotypes you have of like if a guy asks you over first night, then they're only looking for sex. And if a guy takes a week to text you, he is messing you about. If a guy says he's scared, it's an excuse. Like all this stuff that we get fed, and we've got a real story here where he was doing all those things and none of them were true and like they fell in love. So it is like how do you word it? Like each case to their own. That's not the saying, but you know what I mean. Okay, sorry. The next morning I woke up and heard, "Beautiful, what would you like for breakfast?" He gave me the kind of attention and affection I had always longed for. On our second date, he said, "Listen, I have no interest in seeing anyone else. Will you be mine?" I was ecstatic. I finally found my magical love. 6 years later, there's never been a second of doubt that he is my person. And there's a picture here of them, like, married. They got married. How sweet is that? The story does make me question how much of a romantic I actually am, though. Because if somebody also called me beautiful the morning after, "Beautiful, what would you like for breakfast?" I'd be like, ugh. Don't call me beautiful yet. Call me by my full name. Actually, no, don't call me by my full name. I had this with a guy before, right, that always called me my full name on text. I hated it. yes, it's my name, but no one calls me by my full name by a text, and all my closest friends and family call me Sade. So if you're calling me Sadie, it just sounds so formal to me. And I realised that like we didn't know each other because we were just talking. But he would say it after like, my friend thought I was nuts when I was telling her. But he would say it after things like, I don't know, say I said like, I love margaritas. He'd be like, yeah, well, I could make you a great margarita, Sadie. Which I know sounds so normal, and you're probably going to think I'm nuts, but there was something about it that I just felt so odd to me. And he was like, oh, come on now, Sadie. I like, come on now, Sadie. We've got to get better than that. Like, we've got to get you out till 12. Or like, what, I can't remember, obviously, what he was saying. It was just an instant no from me. I was like, I can't actually deal with it. So, I mean, who knows with me? But I do think as well it's different. Like I always say this, like, and it's probably what they felt. When you meet somebody and you just know it's special and you can like feel it, then it doesn't really matter and you can kind of get away with things. You know that episode we did? You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So yeah. To be with somebody 9 years though, I find crazy when like you know someone's missing, but you stay with them for 9 years. I've never been in a 9-year relationship. Shock. My longest one has been 3.5 years, guys. And that was like over 10 years ago. Oh my God, it's been 10 years since my longest relationship. And here I am with a love and dating podcast. Is that a cause of concern? I don't think so. I've had a lovely time. But that is my point, actually. That I wouldn't stay in something that long. Like my first relationship, I stayed with him for a year. Like I knew I wanted to break up with him and I stayed with him for a year just because I was young and I felt guilty and, you know, I'd never been through a breakup and stuff. But like as I get older, I do just think you just know when something's not right or when something's missing, and you just don't waste your time with somebody. I'm very big now on time wasting. Because, yeah, you've only got one life. And, I mean, it's worked out great for her, but you don't want to spend 9 years with somebody, I don't think, if you know it's not right. I know every situation's different, and usually things always turn out as they would. Like, if I'd broken up with my ex a year earlier, would anything have different happened? Probably have not. Do you know what I mean? So, like, it's fine. But I actually, after I read that, I did Google the main reasons for relationship breakdowns, because I just thought, how can you put up with someone for 9 years without breaking up with them? So I was just, I was quite interested. So apparently, the most common reasons for relationship breakdowns are cheating, obviously, communication issues. Poor communication can lead to feelings of resentment, bitterness, and neglect. Money issues. And that was another I've probably said all these stories, but that was another reason why I knew I wanted to break up with somebody. When I wanted to get crisps from Marx's, and he was like, no, let's get them from Sainsbury's. They're on offer. And I was like, this is never going to work. If I want Marks and Spencer crisps, give me the goddamn crisps. They're £2. Let me treat myself. Withholding affection, not showing affection, can lead to a partner feeling disconnected and embarrassed to ask. That I think is a really hard one, because obviously when you fall for somebody, they show you affection. So to then have that like taken away from you, I just think that's really upsetting. Abuse, obviously, lack of commitment. Obviously, it says here, lack of commitment's a common reason for divorce. Well, if you're married, I would say that's the commitment. But yeah, definitely in relationships, lack of commitment. Loss of trust, difference in priorities, and little intimacy, and lack of physical or emotional intimacy. I guess marriage is what tipped them over the edge. People do tend to break up or like get really angsty when marriage is like floated around, I think, because it does feel like a natural thing, and I think couples do feel pressured to do it. But obviously marriage just sounds so final, doesn't it? So I do think it like freaks some people out. And if you're ever unsure about somebody, I think it'll come out in the marriage area. One of my worst fears. Imagine, like, I can't actually imagine it, but imagine getting ready to go down the aisle, or like you're getting ready for your wedding day and you've got like a pit in your stomach and you're unsure, like Charlotte before she marries Trey, and she finds out like the night before that he's got erection issues. Name me a worse feeling. Oh my God. Let that love never find me, please. I just want to wake up on my wedding day and be so excited and not have really any nerves, because I'm just so excited to see, you know, my person and celebrate with all my family, and it just be like a big laugh is like how I want my wedding. Like I just want to be laughing and crying because I'm happy and just having like a really nice time. That's my dream for a wedding. My mother texted me last night, showing like old pictures of my nephews and that. Can't wait till there's a little Sadie around. I thought, oh, you'll be waiting a little while, love. I didn't even respond. It was right before I went to bed. I thought, I'm just going to pretend I haven't seen that. And then I never addressed it. Oh, right. Oh, actually, talking about my mother. Have you seen that trend on TikTok where it's basically like my mother or my parents at 33 or whatever age you are? And, you know, my parents at 33 were married. They owned a house. They only had my sister, actually. But, like, most parents, like, from my generation were, like, married, owned a home, 4 kids, you know, really settled. And then it's, like, me at 33. And it's, like, a picture of them colouring or a picture of something they've made. Well, I was really chuffed this week, guys, because on one of the days, I made myself lunch and dinner that didn't involve an oven. So usually when I cook, again, use loosely, it involves putting something in the oven, a bowl of microwave peas, and some form of carb. But this week, I made an omelette for lunch, and I literally put the stuff in the bowl, and I mixed it with... I'm not even going to go into the story on the podcast. I basically made a proper omelette. I added salt and pepper and everything. And then I made myself a stir fry in the evening, and I was so chuffed. So I texted my mother, and she was like, "That's excellent, love. Well done." And I was like, wow, this is tragic. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. Please, if you've got any stories, please send them through to sadie@lovewhatluck.com. Make sure you follow me on Insta so we can share stories there as well. I'm at Sadie Maltby or at lovewhatluck. And please, guys, if you are watching on YouTube or Spotify, please make sure you're subscribed and following. It's really such a massive help to get the podcast out. And also, if you're on Spotify and you haven't left me a review, then that would mean the world to me. I think I've been trying to get to 200 reviews for what feels like a year now. I don't know, maybe even longer. I'm on 191 still, and I would just love to see that go up to 200 reviews. It literally takes a second. So yeah, that would mean the world to me if you could do that. And I hope you all have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you next Tuesday.